So the James Bond franchise is looking to reboot with a new actor, but Bond producer Barbara Broccoli is also looking for a new director. And the rumor is she is zeroing in on Oppenheimer and Dark Knight trilogy filmmaker Christopher Nolan. She has already had discussions with Nolan about directing two Bond films, but no deal has been struck. So this isn't really anything new. Broccoli and Nolan were in talks back in 2017 for him to direct a Bond, but the timing wasn't right because of Nolan's schedule and prior commitments. It looks like now the timing could be right given Nolan is coming off the massive success of Oppenheimer, which has now surpassed $900 billion worldwide at the box office, that's astounding. Nolan's made it clear on many occasions he would love to direct a Bond film, saying it would be a true privilege and likening it to working on Batman as far as having similar creative constraints. That being said, the only hiccups in his talks with Broccoli is how much creative freedom he would be given. Barbara Broccoli rarely gives directors full creative freedom, and the report is that Nolan wants to take over the entire creative process, which is not surprising to me at all. Nolan has always said his favorite Bond films are the Sean Connery films, which is interesting because his vision apparently would be to do straight adaptations of Ian Fleming's books, and in doing so, make both films period pieces set in the 1950s and 1960s. So I think we could see films similar to the Connery period, which I think would be amazing. I love that period in history from a visual standpoint. So I'm 100% behind this. Plus, sticking to Fleming's source material and the period setting in the 1950s and 60s means we will have zero chance of having any kind of woke nonsense injected into these movies. It would also mean a return to the analog world of traditional spycraft, similar to the last Mission Impossible film, which was very fun and refreshing. So I am all in for Christopher Nolan taking on two Bond films. I think the franchise could really use the kind of creative muscle that only an auteur director such as Nolan can offer. And I think if Barbara Broccoli has the courage to hand over the creative control to Nolan, he will reinvigorate the franchise, which it desperately needs. Plus, I think they will print money at the box office. But let us know in the comments, would you like to see Chris Nolan make a James Bond film? And if he did, what do you think it would look like? Do you think we will see something close to the Connery period? And also let us know who you think would make the best James Bond as far as the new actor. I'm a Henry Cavill guy, but I think think he's too old at this point, which is sad. Lisa, you haven't seen most of the James Bond films, but what do you think about Chris Nolan directing a Bond film?
I mean, way to out me, but yeah, I mean, I think Christopher Nolan, I mean, the good thing is like, if you're going to give someone 100% creative control, like if you've previously been burned and don't want to do it, I think you're going to be safe giving it, to him.
Yeah.
And the one thing that you mentioned about it being a period piece and sticking to the source material, and it's kind of like what we saw in Oppenheimer, and that's that you can make the secretaries all women and just be like, that's how it was at the time.
Yeah.
As far as a Bond, I mean, I don't know if I agree that Henry is too old. I mean, I know that's like the prevailing wisdom for who Bond is written to be. It's just that he doesn't look that old. I think, if anything, when I think of him now, he's probably too buff when I think of, past Bonds. I just hope it's weird because you have to, like, he's never been the most, like, I don't know if masculine is the word to say, like, rough,
well,
or, rugged Bond, right? So I understand that's not who that character is going to be, but I don't want like a Timothy Chalamet type.
Yeah, we definitely want a masculine Bond. I think that's important, and that's what I think. Henry oozes masculinity, and I think after this last Mission Impossible, I could just see it so perfectly. So he did lose out to Craig when they recast. Henry was second runner up. He was also second.
And Craig is pretty rugged for Bond standards.
Yeah, he was. A lot of critics at the time said he wasn't handsome enough, that he had too much of a boxer's face, which I thought was kind of an interesting kind of take because coming off Roger Moore, who's very debonair, very handsome and suave, it was definitely out of left field to cast somebody like Craig.
But I remember the Drudge headline when it was announced that it was Daniel Craig was James Blonde.
Right, because he was the first blonde James Bond.
That was like the big, like, this cannot be.
Yeah.
Imagine like that we changed the hair color and people freaked and all the other things they want to do. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, that's not gonna fly.
Well, they also said that Craig was too buff
Mhm.
in Casino Royale, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then I think he slimmed down, but Henry is definitely going to have to lose some muscle if he was to take on a role like this. But I think he'd be perfect for it. But they're looking to cast a little bit younger. I think they want a Bond in his mid to late 30s, and I think that Henry is. I think he's 39. I think he's approaching 40, and they thought a 40-year-old Bond might be too old.
What
So
do you think about, I always mess up his name, but who played Oppenheimer?
they've talked about Killian Murphy as a potential.
He's Irish, right?
Yeah, I'm just not sure if Killian is big enough. I don't know if he's big and tall enough, and that was kind of my issue because he tried out for Batman as well,
Mhm.
and there's screen tests of him out there for on Batman Begins. He ultimately got the Scarecrow part, which
Mhm.
he was amazing as. But yeah, this is a tough one. I think there's a bunch of names. Tom Hardy. They've even talked to Idris Elba, even though he said I don't think there should be a black James Bond. I'd rather them create a new character for me to play within the James Bond universe, which I think would be amazing.
Mhm.
008. Um,
Also, Christopher Nolan likes to work with a lot of the same people, so I feel
yeah,
like you gotta, and especially if he ends up with 100% control, you have to look at like the Nolan universe.
I think it's exciting that
Mhm.
they're talking to a director of Nolan's caliber because that means that they're serious about rebooting it and they're serious about doing it big and bold, which I think is exactly what Bond deserves.
Yeah.
So we'll
Well, and
see.
also, I mean, they're ready to, you know, do another big box office run, because I mean, it's also committing. It's not just, committing to like, let's make another movie. It's like, it's going to be, several because they're going to use the same guy,
Mhm.
and I think like committing to someone like Nolan is really, and that Nolan would do it is also, a great thing for Nolan fans because, you're going to get two, three, four movies out of him.
Yeah, yeah, easy. They're talking about 2 movies, and I can easily see that turning into a trilogy if he was to take on Bond.
Yeah.